Hello and welcome to this upgrading your AEG video. This is actually part of a series of videos which the playlist for should be linked in the corners and in the description below. I will just say a quick disclaimer of myself and Tom are not be-all and end-all experts. We have a fair amount of knowledge and everything said in these videos are our own personal opinions. So watch it and then go do your own research and come to your own conclusions before doing any teching. With that, enjoy the video.
We've still not got into the gearbox really.
No.
Because we might change the barrel, we've probably changed the hot rubber.
Yeah.
We've changed the motor, but we're still not in the gearbox.
No.
After 90 minutes.
Seeing as you mentioned current, let's talk about Mosfets. Most guns don't come with a MOSFET.
Okay.
If you want to improve trigger response and if you want to improve rate of fire, MOSFET. And it just is an added benefit of it will improve the lifetime of your gun, because your current is no longer flowing through your trigger switch, it is flowing through the MOSFET. Now
I've only burnt out a couple of... I don't know, sometimes I think, and I'm really guilty, I've got like 6 Titans.
Yeah.
I sometimes think it can be a bit of a kind of game chasing the dragon, a bit ephemeral. You don't really need it.
I don't use any internal MOSFETs. I only used one, and that was because I didn't think there would be a MOSFET small enough to fit in the stock of the SLR. Since that was a part of crap and is burnt out, I'll say it now, don't buy an ASCU MOSFET. I took a punt on it thinking that it was just some people having a bad experience. Nope.
I think I agree with you. I think a simple inline MOSFET, if you got one to hand or a box or anything, I think like the Gate Nano or the Pico or something along those lines, really simple.
I use, for the most part, I will just drop a Gate ASR, and they're these doohickeys. They don't do anything fancy. They are just there as an inline MOSFET to carry the current. Purely so it gives me peace of mind that if I do end up running a higher current battery in it, I'm not going to burn out my trigger contacts. Because
I know you've got a great video on MOSFETs.
Yep.
I've got a video on MOSFETs. People that don't really know what they are, just think of it as an electronic switch.
Yep.
So instead of all the current in the battery going through your trigger contacts, there's a little signal wire down. There's 2, so you can hardwire them in, but again, if you want to get more into MOSFETs, you can watch this. We've both got videos.
Yep.
But effectively, it takes all of the power away from the trigger contacts, and it just sends a little tiny current down, and when it senses that circuit's closed, it dumps all the power down into the motor.
Yep.
So it just separates those 2 circuits.
Yeah. Does it mean that your gun's 11.1 ready though? No. No.
Well, there's no such thing as an 11.1 ready gun. It's all marketing nonsense. It just depends how well it's built. I mean, all they're saying is it's potentially built a bit better.
Yes.
Or they're prepared to warranty. So something you need to bear in mind. And of course, so you've touched on it. Sticking a bigger battery in, or quality battery, can make an enormous difference to how your gun performs.
Yes.
So you certainly put in the free one that came with it.
Yeah. Take that free one.
Or not.
Throw it away. If you get a gun.
Recycle it in a responsible manner then.
Recycle it in a responsible manner. Don't just dump it in the bin. But yes, don't. I would recommend nowadays there's no real reason not to buy lipos or lions for airsoft.
Yeah.
I think if in doubt, get a 7.4 lipo, because they will do you proud. They will work fine. And of all my guns, not all of them have MOSFETs in. If they don't have MOSFET in, they run 7.4 lipos. If they do have MOSFET in, they'll probably run 7.4 lipos. Although that being said, some of my stuff does run 11.1s, but that's because they seem to work better on them.
Some guns just seem to need it. Some of the GGs just seem to need 11.1s in them to run efficiently. No.
Yeah, and some guns now do actually come with MOSFETs fitted. So G&G have their ECU range, and they state on them you need to run them on 11.1. Not because running them on a lower voltage battery will do them damage, which I was told by a major retailer once. That was an interesting one. Basically, one of our friends bought a gun and it had an ECU in it, and he ran it on an 8.4 NIM, and then it stopped working after a game day, and the ECU had blown up. And the retailer was like, "Oh, well, you ran it on a lower voltage, so that caused it to blow up." and we're there like. There were three of us. There were three of us.
Electronic.
Yeah, there were three of us standing there, and two of us had degrees had electronic or computer science degrees and do a lot of electronics. We're just like, do you want us to get a whiteboard out and talk you through this? And after about an hour or so, he was like, all right, fine, we'll replace it. But yeah, so guns that come with ECUs, use the battery voltage they recommend. Otherwise, I'd recommend going for a 7.4, and they will see you through. And then if a 7.4 isn't doing it, then 11.1. But
there's also something we may do actually, is do a whole battery one.
Yeah.
Because there's an awful lot of talk about discharge rates and capacities and voltages and all sorts of stuff.
There's also a whole lot of myth out there about having a bigger capacitance means you have a higher rate of fire, which was true with an older type of battery tech, but with modern tech, that's not true at all. Because basically the old style of batteries, you needed a bigger capacitance to be able to deliver a bigger amount of current instantaneously. Lipos, as you can see, because they catch fire all the time if you use them wrong, are able to dump all of their power instantly if they need to. So it's a case of if your motor can draw that much current, it will draw that much current. It's not a case of the lipos limiting the amount of current a motor can draw.
Okay, so we've done Mosfets. I think
we're
both. Or should we go into doing the inside gearbox stuff?
Well, we touched on it briefly, but we didn't talk too much about actual internal Mosfets. I think they're kind of a gimmick, really. You don't really need them.
Okay, so I'll give you an application where they're really cool. That's in TM recalls.
Right.
Because they're prone to locking up.
Yep. Yeah.
And some other version 2 gearboxes are prone to locking up. But every gearbox can lock up, but TM recalls are quite prone, and V2s, I think something to do with the geometry of the gears, are more prone to locking up as well. With an internal, certainly Titan, well, they're all the same, they've all got a gear position. Anything with a gear position sensor of some sort, whether that's mechanical or optical, it will carry on cycling the gearbox, and you just take that problem. And that's really nice. Right, so then you can finger bang as much as you want.
The only time you need that is if you've got a gun. 100% that you need that is if you've got a gun that only shoots in semi-auto and has no full auto ability. Because with any other gun, if you get a lock-up in semi, you can flick it to full auto and reset the gear.
Not with those. You sometimes have to get the grip off.
Oh really? For TM?
And get a tool up. Yeah.
Is that because of the weird?
It's because if you trap it with the recoil weights halfway back.
Oh, it can't spin it up to push the wheel.
You're not. It's not going to have the inertia to. Again, a good batch. You can defeat a lot of that with a good battery.
Yep.
But I never had a problem with that one with a good battery.
Yeah.
So generally, I agree, Ben. I think what I would say to people, they are cool. You can do really fun things with them. Generally, don't need one. You can get most of the perceived benefit with a little inline hardwired in, just as you've shown Mosfet.
Yeah.
What I would say is, if you do have one, or you want to have one installed, be aware that you should probably be competent working on the gun yourself.
Yes.
Or be prepared to send it back to your tech if something goes wrong.
Absolutely.
Because there is some tricky installation stuff. You can really cock up the installation yourself if you get the position. If you position it wrong, and if you set it up wrong, you can get yourself in trouble as well. So I really wouldn't recommend one unless you're quite happy. If you live near your tech, you're quite happy driving over.
Yes.
Or you're happy and confident going inside yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I know Luke from Negative Airsoft does a lot of stuff on this, in a very ranty way, which I don't approve of personally. However, I think the core of his message is there's just too much trouble for most people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and you need to know how to properly shim for it as well, because if you shim, so when I talked about my shim video, I talked about shimming motor to piston, which for the large majority of guns is a decent way to shim, at least I found. If you are using one of the Titans or another sensor board like it, you should shim the other way around to make sure you're not gonna smash your sensors off your board with your sector gear.
You also need it. One of the most common mistakes with Titans, and particularly Asters, because they're single-sided, is you need to get the sector gear reasonably close to the sensors.
Mm.
So and if it's too far away, it doesn't. The optical sensors don't read the gear teeth very well. So they're just problematic, right? Mm. It's just one of those things. I really like mine, but I'm quite inside my guns.
I think it's a nice to have, and if you want to have it and you feel confident fitting it, go for it. But you really don't need one. You can just get away with no MOSFET or an inline MOSFET. Simple as.
Yeah, right. I really like mine, but I wouldn't sell a child or do anything for one. It may be if when your gun, I mean, it's like potentially if your gearbox does blow up into a million pieces, that may be the point to do it. But I wouldn't go cracking open a good gearbox in order to fit one. It's really not. No. And again, hardwired inline MOSFET, you could put in and not open a gearbox. So again, we've upgraded our gun without going into the gearbox.